Okay, so apparently I need to talk about this whole thing where people think the Simpsons can see into the future like some kind of crystal ball or fortune cookie, except way more accurate and less likely to give you food poisoning. Which is saying something because I've gotten food poisoning from a fortune cookie before. Don't ask. So there's this whole conspiracy theory floating around the internet, which is where all the smart people hang out, according to Bart, and it's getting completely out of control. Some guy posted on Reddit 9 months ago asking if The Simpsons can predict the future, and let me tell you, the responses were crazier than the time I thought I could fly after eating that expired sandwich. People were talking about a new world order, saying our show is some kind of secret message system used by the ruling elite to tell everyone what's coming. The ruling elite? Like Mr. Burns would ever share his evil plans with a cartoon about a lovable idiot who works at a nuclear power plant. Although, now that I say it out loud, it does sound exactly like something Burns would do. The whole thing started because we supposedly predicted a bunch of stuff that actually happened. Donald Trump becoming president, Lady Gaga's Super Bowl show, and a ton of other things that made people go, whoa, how did they know? Some people even think the show's creator is a Freemason, which is ridiculous because I'm pretty sure Masons have to be able to build things, and the only thing our writers build is jokes about how stupid I am. Which, fair enough. So anyway, the mainstream media tried to explain this whole thing, and their answer was pretty boring. They got some assistant math professor from the University of Albany to do the math, and he said it's just a numbers game. The Simpsons has been on the air for like 1,000,000 years, 29 seasons at the time, with about 120,000 jokes. That's 8.54 jokes per minute, which is more jokes than I've understood in my entire life. Their theory is that with that many jokes, some of them are bound to come true eventually. It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Except instead of spaghetti, it's jokes about the future, and instead of a wall, it's reality itself. I think. Math hurts my brain. They compared us to Star Trek, which has had over 700 episodes and 13 movies. Star Trek predicted stuff too, like flip phones and flat-screen TVs and video calls. The logic is that both shows just had more chances to be right, so it's all luck. They said there's nothing special about The Simpsons predicting the future because other shows have done it too. Case closed. Mystery solved. Everyone go home and have a duff. Except that's not the whole story, and even I could tell something was off. The problem is that The Simpsons has way more predictions that came true than other shows. Like, way more. Star Trek predicted things like flip phones and tablets, which, yeah, those are cool, but they're also pretty easy to guess if you think about it. Phones getting smaller, TVs getting flatter. That's just technology doing what technology does. You don't need to be a genius to figure out that things are going to get more convenient and probably break more easily. But our predictions are different. They're weird and specific and sometimes so accurate it makes you wonder if Lisa's been using her saxophone to communicate with aliens or something. The whole numbers game explanation only answers the simple stuff, the easy predictions that any show could make. It doesn't explain the really elaborate ones, the ones that make people's brains explode when they think about it too hard. Here's where things get really weird. In 2012, scientists at CERN discovered something called the Higgs boson, which they call the God particle, because scientists are dramatic like that. It's this tiny thing that gives mass to matter and basically holds the universe together. Without it, there'd be no gravity and no universe, which means no donuts, and that's a world I don't want to live in. This was a huge deal for physics, like finding out that beer actually makes you smarter huge. Okay, not that huge, but pretty big. Now here's the kicker. 15 years before they discovered this thing, in a 1998 episode, I wrote an equation on a blackboard. Just scribbled it there in the background while doing whatever dumb thing I was doing in that episode. To most people watching, it looked like random junk. Just a bunch of symbols and numbers that didn't mean anything. But that equation predicted the mass of the Higgs boson so precisely that when scientists finally figured it out 15 years later, the show was only this much off. That's like me guessing the exact number of jelly beans in a jar. except the jar is the size of the universe and the jelly beans are invisible particles that might not exist. What the hell? How does that even happen? This isn't like predicting that phones will get smaller or that TVs will get flatter. This is predicting a fundamental discovery about how the universe works before anyone even knew if the thing existed. A particle physicist said it resonated with him when he saw it, whatever that means. Probably something smart that I wouldn't understand, even if he explained it real slow while I was sober. So somebody went through and watched 100 random episodes from different seasons to count how many times the show made a joke or had a plot that could come true. And there were a lot. The NSA spying on everyone. We showed that 5 years before Edward Snowden made it a big deal. Trump's presidency, 17 years early. Disney buying Fox, 19 years. The Statue of David getting censored, 26 years. These aren't small things. These are big, complicated things that involve politics and business and society. Out of all the supposed predictions floating around the internet, about 43 of them, 13 turned out to be pure coincidence. Like this one time Bart held up a brochure that said, New York, $9 a day, and the World Trade Center towers were in the background in a way that looked like 9/11 when you squinted. That was in 1996, 5 years before it happened. But that was just a terrible, horrible coincidence. The episode had nothing to do with terrorism or attacks or anything like that. It was just a magazine with the New York skyline. Sometimes awful things happen and it's nobody's fault, not even a cartoon's fault. But that still leaves 30 predictions that can't be explained by coincidence. 30 times where the show got something right in a way that's statistically significant, whatever that means. I know significant means important, and I know statistics has something to do with numbers, so I guess it means the numbers say it's important. They got a real statistician to look at it, not one of those fake ones you find on the internet, and the statistician said, yeah, this is actually weird. Compared to other shows like Star Trek and Futurama and South Park, The Simpsons really does stand out when it comes to predicting stuff. So the simple explanation that it's all just luck and numbers doesn't work. There's something else going on here, something that makes our show different from all the others. And before you start thinking it's some big conspiracy with the Illuminati or lizard people or whatever, just hold on. The real answer is way more interesting than that. And it doesn't involve any secret societies or mind control or Mr. Burns trying to take over the world. Well, it might involve Mr. Burns a little bit, but only because he's in every episode. All right, so where did we leave off? Oh, yeah, 30 predictions that can't be explained by dumb luck, and everyone's wondering if the writers have some kind of time machine hidden in the studio. Spoiler alert, they don't. I checked. There's just a vending machine that hasn't been restocked since 1992 and a coffee maker that might be sentient. So, to figure this whole thing out, somebody tracked down this guy named Simon Singh who lives in London and writes books about math and physics. Now, normally when someone tells me they write books about math, I pretend my phone is ringing and walk away real fast. But this guy is legit. He's a theoretical and particle physicist who actually worked at CERN, the place where they found that God particle thing I mentioned earlier. If anyone knows how we predicted that Higgs boson equation, it's this guy. Simon says that, yeah, when you have a show that runs as long as ours and covers as many topics as we do, some things are going to come true eventually. That's the luck part. But the big ones, the really specific predictions that make people think we're psychic or working for some shadow government, those aren't predictions at all. Plot twist. They're not even trying to predict anything. Here's what actually happened with that Higgs boson equation I wrote on the blackboard. The writer of that episode was a guy named David Cohen. And get this, he has a degree in physics and a master's degree in computer science. He's published papers in math journals and everything. The guy's basically a nerd's nerd. The kind of person who does math for fun, which I can't relate to at all because I do eating for fun like a normal person. So David Cohen wanted to put this equation on the blackboard to make it look smart and funny at the same time, which is basically what all our jokes try to do, except usually they just make me look dumb. He called up his friend David Shalminovitz, who's a professor at Columbia University. They went to high school together. and were part of this gang of teenage computer programmers called the Glitch Masters. Computer programmers called the Glitch Masters. Yeah, that was a real thing. They even invented their own computer language because apparently regular languages weren't nerdy enough for them. Cohen asked his professor friend if he could make up an equation that would give a realistic result for the Higgs boson mass, and Shalminovitz did exactly that. They didn't pull random symbols out of a hat. They used real physics constants and combined them in a way that gave a plausible mass for something that scientists were actively looking for at the time. The joke wasn't that they could see the future. The joke was that they were making fun of something real and absurd that was happening in the world of physics right then. It's satire, which is a fancy word for making fun of stuff in a smart way. And here's the thing. This isn't just about one equation or one writer. The Simpsons writing team is packed with people who have degrees in everything from mathematics to computer science to philosophy to social sciences. They had a whole panel once with writers showing off their impressive education credentials, and it wasn't just the math nerds either. There are people on the writing team who are experts in presidential history, pop culture, politics, you name it. It's like they assembled the nerdiest Avengers team possible and gave them all jobs making cartoon jokes. Because the writers are so educated and connected to experts in different fields, they have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the world before most people even hear about it. When they put math in the show, they make sure it's accurate. When they reference science or politics or culture, they do their homework. It's not about predicting the future, it's about paying attention to the present in a way that most people don't. Take the Trump presidency thing. Everyone acts like we predicted he'd become president out of nowhere, but that's not what happened. Trump was hinting at running for president 12 years before we made that episode about President Trump. He was talking about it in interviews, floating the idea, testing the waters. Our writers picked up on that and made a joke about it because the idea of Trump as president seemed absurd and funny. It was satire. We were making fun of something that was already happening in the real world, not predicting some crazy future event. The writers don't just throw random ideas at the wall and hope they stick. Every joke that seems like a prediction is actually based on something real that's going on at the time. They're connected to people who know what's coming down the pipeline in science, technology, politics, and culture. When you're that plugged in and that educated, you can make jokes about trends that eventually become reality because you saw them starting before everyone else did. Somebody did this whole analysis thing with charts and data, which normally would make me fall asleep faster than one of Reverend Lovejoy's sermons, but this was actually interesting. They found that it takes about 13 years on average for our predictions to come true. 13 years! That's not magic. That's just how long it takes for weird ideas to become normal reality. And when they looked at which seasons had the most accurate predictions, there was a pattern. The predictions matched up with the highest rated episodes, the ones people thought were the best written. Good writing means being aware of what's happening in the world. It means paying attention to science, politics, society, all that stuff that most of us ignore because we're too busy watching TV or eating nachos or both at the same time. The writers want the show to be interesting and smart, not just because it's more fun for them, but because it makes better episodes for us. According to the internet ratings anyway, which I guess people trust more than their own opinions these days. They even tracked individual writers across different seasons to see if the predictions happened more when certain writers were around. Some writers only worked on the show for one season and never came back. Others wrote for a while, took a break, then came back later. And yeah, the predictions mostly clustered around when the super-educated writers were actively working on the show. It's not rocket science, although some of these writers probably understand rocket science better than I understand how to program the DVR. Now, I gotta be honest, this explanation doesn't cover everything. There are a few weird exceptions that don't fit the pattern. Like this one time we had an episode where I tried to stop our local baseball team, the Isotopes, from moving to Albuquerque. That was in 2001. 2 years later, Albuquerque actually got a minor league team, and the town voted to name them the Isotopes. The team president even admitted they got the name from our show. That's not us predicting the future. That's us accidentally creating the future which is somehow even weirder. Statistics are strange like that. With enough people and enough time, 1 in a million things happen all the time. In a city like New York with 9 million people, a 1 in a million event should happen 9 times a day. The universe is full of coincidences that seem impossible until you realize how many chances there are for them to happen. It's like how I keep running into the same people at Moe's. It's not fate, it's just that we're all alcoholics who live in the same small town. Look, I know conspiracy theories are fun. I've believed in a few myself, mostly involving donuts and why they disappear so fast from the break room at work. But the truth here is actually more interesting than any conspiracy. The Simpsons isn't predicting the future with some mystical power or secret knowledge from the Illuminati. The writers are just really smart, really connected, and really good at paying attention to what's happening in the world right now. They make jokes about trends and ideas that are just starting to emerge, and 13 years later, when those things become reality, everyone forgets that the seeds were already planted way back when. It's intricate writing by people who care about getting things right. It's satire that works because it's based on real observation of the world. And yeah, sometimes luck plays a part because that's how statistics work. But mostly, it's just educated people making educated guesses wrapped up in jokes about a fat guy who loves beer and donuts. Which, to be fair, is a pretty good description of me. So there you go. Mystery solved. No time travel, no secret societies, no lizard people controlling the media, just nerds being nerdy and making really good television in the process. Now, if you'll excuse me, all this thinking has made me hungry and I need to go find something to eat that definitely won't give me food